Hey, it's Chris with Life 180. If you're struggling with your finances, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to cover 5 rules that you need to manage your money with. This is something that's going to apply to every single person. If you are just getting off the ground, you're starting your financial life. Maybe you're struggling with your finances. Maybe you're scared to figure out how to pivot. You don't know what's going on in the economy. Look around. We're heading into a recession. I think we're already potentially in a recession. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, a lot of unknowns. I don't think there needs to be. I think there could be a lot of opportunity in this world for you if you're prepared, if you're handling your money right. And I got news for you. No matter how you feel about where you are right now, you can do this. These 5 rules can be applied by every single person. So my encouragement to you is stay tuned, watch every single point. The 5th rule that I'm going to cover here is potentially the most important one. So make sure you check it out. Hey, what's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and for this video, we're gonna be talking about the 5 rules you need to follow to manage your money. Now, let's just get right into this. Rule number 1, you need to have a monthly profit and loss statement. And here's what I mean by that. I know if you've run a business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you've ever had any leadership role in a company, you've probably had a profit and loss statement that you have to evaluate every single month that tells you what's going on in the business's finances. Like, what are the inflows? What's the cash flow look like? How are things going? What's our overhead? It's profit, loss. Where's the money coming in? Are we making money? Are we losing money? How do we measure things? I'm a big believer that anything we measure is going to improve, right? Period. And so when we look at it from that perspective, I equate the profit and loss statement in a personal life, in our personal finances with our spouse, how we run our household. I equate that with our budget is the equivalent of a profit and loss statement. Now, the only difference between these two is when you, instead of thinking about a budget is very restrictive, right? It's very scarcity mindset, I guess is the best way to say it. And a profit loss statement is always thinking about investment. It's thinking about growth. It's thinking about, expansion and abundance and trying to grow things. Because I don't know anybody that starts a business just trying to budget their way and trying to survive. This is one of the biggest areas that I think Dave Ramsey just gets it wrong. You're not gonna budget your way to wealth. You're not gonna save your way to wealth. You have to go at life from a productive perspective and from a growth perspective. And you have to, in order to do that, you have to be thinking about your personal life like a business. And so that's why, number 1, I say you got to have a profit and loss statement, because you do have to measure, you have to be responsible, you have to grow and invest and save, and sometimes you got to cut, and sometimes you got to do all these things at different phases, different stages, but you always have to have a mindset of growth in that process. So that's why it's number 1. Rule number 2 is you need to pay yourself first. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is they go out, they get overhead, they have a car payment, they have a mortgage, they have food, they have expenses, entertainment, travel, vacations, all these different things, right? We put our kids in activities, we do all these different things. At the end of the month, they have more month than they have money, right? Like they spend more than they're making, and they look back, and that's why most people are living paycheck to paycheck, because they don't have a plan to actually save. Let's face it, you and your ability to achieve your goals is going to be solely dependent on your ability to save money, to put money aside, to prepare, to look for opportunity, to protect yourself against an emergency or a rainy day or anything of that nature. And with the environment that we're in, coming into more of a recessionary type environment, a lot of uncertainty in the market, your ability to be prepared for that is either going to help elevate you, or it's going to help you feel, not help you feel, it's going to make you feel like you got just an anvil on your head. And so the idea of paying yourself first is saying, listen, you are the best asset that you're going to have. If you can put money aside and you can have that money sitting there and waiting for opportunity and protecting you against downside, protecting you against emergency, and then you can look around, and when the rest of the world is on fire, when the rest of the world is struggling, because when we go into these recessionary cycles, you're able to take advantage of it. That's what it's all about. That's what's going to help you catapult your results forward even more. And ultimately, being able to pay yourself first. You should be paying yourself 10 to 20 cents on every dollar you make before anything else. You should have a dedicated account. If you're making $10,000 a month, $2,000 a month should be going into a dedicated account set aside for emergency and for opportunity. right? I'm not gonna get into what you do and the levels you need to get to in this video. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, that way you're notified, because I do a lot of videos on that content. You can watch some of the older content. I'll put a great video on the end screen on this video so you are able to continue the educational journey if you wanna learn more about how much you should save, where to save, how to structure your financial life to optimize it. But ultimately, paying yourself first is one of the greatest principles that every financially successful person in the world applies in their life. All right, so the third thing, once you've understood that you need to pay yourself first, question is, what are you gonna do with that? Well, I'm a big believer you need to save 12 to 24 months of income before you start investing. One of the greatest myths in the world is the younger you are, the more risk you can take. I'm here to tell you, the younger you are, the less risk you have to take. And if you wanna be able to be successful, you have to be able to ride the market cycles. You gotta slow down to go fast. You need to be willing to save before you invest, because the biggest mistake that people make has nothing to do with, the investments, so to speak. It has to do with financial structure. It has to do with it's not what are you doing, but it's how are you behaving with your money, right? So here's what I mean by this. A lot of people don't realize, it's not that the S&P 500, I'm just gonna use this as an example because I think it's the one that relates and resonates with most people. They say the average rate of return in the S&P 500 since 1925 is 8.3%. The difference is the actual return. Dalbar did a study on this. Dalbar is a great research institution for the financial space. They've done a study on this that shows that the average American since the mid 1990s has only averaged about 2.4%. Why is that? Because we've had a lot of crises. We had the dot-com bubble, we had the Great Recession, we've had the pandemic with COVID, we've had all these things happen, right? And so why is it, if the market has averaged 8.3% over the long term, people are they're only getting a fraction of that actually in their own accounts, right? 2.4%, by the way, since the 70s doesn't even beat inflation. So that means that people's real purchasing power has been going down in their investment accounts on average. Here's why: because human behavior screws up investment strategies. And the reason that happens is not because you're emotional. It's not because you make bad decisions. It's because most people are focused on survival. And this is what I was talking about in the last point, where I said, I'm gonna put a video at the end that'll help you figure out how to structure your life. This is why it's so important, because at the end of the day, how you structure your life is gonna protect you when we go into down cycles like we're coming into right now in this recession, right? When this is happening, you can either be positioned to thrive from it, but when you invest too early and you don't have enough money saved and you're not prepared for these times that are coming, what happens is the market goes into a downturn and now you have to liquidate your investments. And what happens is you liquidate when times are tough, when asset prices are going down. And the worst thing that you can do is liquidate a negative performing asset, period. So by having your money saved 12 to 24 months of income before you go invest, what that does is it puts you in a position, both mentally, emotionally, and technically, it puts you in a position to be able to act like a good investor. It gets you the ability to be able to look at an investment and invest above and beyond that 12 to 24 month buffer, or take a portion of that 12 to 24 month buffer and actually put it into investments and let that ride. Because if it goes down, if a portion of your investments get hurt, you're not needing to liquidate it just to survive, just to pay the mortgage, just to pay the car payment, just to put food on the table, that kind of stuff. So making sure that you save before you invest is the third thing you need to do. The fourth thing is, when you do invest, when you hit that place where you're comfortable and you're ready and you're educated, you need to put your money and invest in cash flowing assets. It makes no sense to take your money, putting it in qualified accounts, giving up control of it, giving up control of having access to it without taxes and penalty, but also you're giving up control of it from the context of you don't have a lot of results in those accounts. Taxes could go up. I don't know about you, but I'm a believer taxes have nowhere to go but up in the environment that we're in. And one of the biggest challenges that I see with people that I talk to is I say, where are you saving your money? Where are you investing your money? Where are you putting your money? And most people say, well, I've got an IRA, I got a Roth, I got a 401k, I'm doing all these different things. And the problem is, when I ask them their beliefs, what they believe, what their values are about this world, about what's going on, politically, what's going on economically, what's going on with the national debt, what's going on with the government debt, what's going on with interest rates, what's going on with inflation. Like, what do you believe about what's going on in this world? And when I ask people that and they tell me, the number one thing I notice in my conversations with literally thousands of people is that the reason you're frustrated, the reason you're uncertain, the reason you have anxiety around your money is because your financial strategy that you're implementing right now, whether you know it or not, is completely out of alignment. It's uncorrelated, is that a word? With what your beliefs are. And if your beliefs and your strategy are in opposition, you're never gonna succeed. Your subconscious is not gonna let you put everything into that because you're not gonna believe you can succeed, because what you're doing, you don't believe it's gonna work because you believe whatever it is you believe over here, right? You believe taxes are gonna go up. You believe inflation is a real threat. You believe interest rates are gonna go up, and that's gonna cause problems in a lot of different ways. And maybe you don't know how it's gonna impact this. Maybe you don't have complete clarity on that. And so by investing in cash flowing assets, it puts you in a position where you are investing in things like real estate, in businesses, in other assets. There's a whole smorgasbord of assets that will create cash flow for you, that you can control, that you don't have to put into qualified accounts, right? That will get you faster results, that you can leverage, that will get you better tax benefits, that will do all these different things for you. So my suggestion is go out and do that before putting your money into an account that's out of alignment with your beliefs. And that leads me to number 5, that is when you do invest. First of all, you need to invest in yourself, in your own education, because you gotta be in that space. You gotta understand what you're doing, but you gotta invest in things that you can control and that you have influence over the result. There's nothing else in life that we're gonna give up that is this important to us that we're gonna give up control of the results in our life. Seems to be only the financial world. We've kind of been duped into this mindset that, hey, just give your money to a money manager, to an investor. They're smarter than you. This stuff is complicated. No, I got news for you. It's not complicated. It shouldn't be that complicated. And if it is complicated, not to say that it's super straightforward, but it's not so complicated that in a 2-week period, you, instead of watching Netflix for an hour a night, you could study this literally for probably a total of 10 hours, and you'll know more than 95% of the people in this world. And that alone will change your life, right? The fact that you're watching this video right now says a lot about you. The fact that you're 10, 12 minutes into this video right now says a lot about you, right? And I'm not trying to say I'm amazing at this and that I, have all the answers for you, because I don't, but these principles don't change, right? Like the success principles don't change across the board. It doesn't matter if we're talking about your money or your business, your relationship with your spouse, or your relationship as a parent with your kids. Success principles don't change. You have to take an active role in anything that matters to you. You cannot outsource your success in any way. It is no different with your money. I don't care what anybody tells you. So that's what I would say. In number 5 is invest in things you can control and that you understand. And so in order to do that, you need to make sure you invest in yourself first and foremost. That doesn't have to be a monetary investment. That can be investment of your time into your education, building your knowledge, building your expertise. The beautiful part about a lot of this is there are a lot of ways to make money with very little money. It just takes you dedicating and educating yourself, dedicating investment of that time, because time is the most precious resource that we have. It's the only thing we can't get back. And so don't downplay the importance of you investing your time into accomplishing what your goals and objectives are, right? Into your dreams. And that's what it all comes down to. So when it comes to the 5 rules that I think you need to implement when it's managing your money, those are the 5 that I would talk about. So if you have any questions, any comments, comment in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, that way you're notified every time I launch a new video. Till next time, have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon. See ya.